The White House has officially called off this year's Super Bowl celebration, which of course would celebrate the Eagles' Super Bowl win. And there has been a lot of spin going on, a lot of drama, a lot of propaganda, and we're going to go through all of it. First, let me just say that the White House officials said that only about 10 people, 10 members of the team were planning to attend the celebration on the South Lawn despite weeks of planning for the event. Now, that is the heart of the story. That is the reason why Trump has decided to call off this celebration. But he made it seem as though he's calling it off or it's being canceled because the players don't want to stand for the national anthem. He said the following: the Philadelphia Eagles are unable to come to the White House with their full team to be celebrated tomorrow. They disagree with their president because he insists that they proudly stand for the national anthem, hand on heart, in honor of the great men and women of our military and the people of our country. So again, fewer than 10 people said that they would show up. And because of that, he decided to cancel. But keep in mind, there are fans of the Philadelphia Eagles who plan on showing up to the celebration. Even though it's only about 10 players who said that they would show up, 10 players still wanted to show up, but he wanted to cancel it anyway. Now, Sarah.
One quick piece of context there. Originally, about 80 were slated to come. And then they started peeling off and saying, we're not going to attend, players, coaches, et cetera. And it's not because the anthem, as Anna explained, and we have great details on that, but because they were concerned about Donald Trump being divisive, and he proved him right by being more divisive and then blaming them for it.
So before we continue on with the rest of the story, I want to make clear that during the season, not a single one of the Philadelphia players kneeled during the national anthem. All of them stood for the national anthem. And so this isn't really about the national anthem. As Cenk mentioned, this is about Trump being as divisive as he is. Now, the NFL did make a decision about kneeling during the national anthem, and they said that any player who refuses to stand on the field will be penalized in some way. But again, it's more about frustration over this issue becoming so incredibly politicized. Now, with that said, let's hear from Sarah Huckabee Sanders, who of course was asked about this issue during her press briefing. Take a look.
He's suggesting this is about the national anthem. Is the president aware that not a single player on the Eagles through the entire season knelt for the national anthem?
The president's position on not just the anthem has been clear, but let's not forget this isn't. There were 80 members of the Eagles organization that RSVP'd and committed to attend this event. The Eagles are the ones that tried to change their commitment at the 11th hour, and the president frankly thinks that the fans deserve better than that.
So the fans deserve to be able to go to the White House and celebrate. And since he has kind of canceled this event, the 10 players who agreed to come won't be showing up. So you're actually penalizing the fans here. There will be some sort of event at the White House. Trump said more than 1,000 fans who had been invited to the celebration would still be welcome at the White House for what the president called a different type of ceremony, one that will honor our great country, pay tribute to the heroes who fight to protect it, and loudly and proudly play the national anthem.
Okay, so let's dive into a number of different issues here. One is the politics of this, and the secondly is the substance of it. So in terms of the politics, I think he's made a terrible mistake here. So Philadelphia is in the state of Pennsylvania, and Pennsylvania narrowly voted for Trump last time. And if you think that Philly fans are going to be with you instead of the Eagles who just won the Super Bowl, I think you are gravely mistaken. There is a limit to Trump fervor, even among MAGA people, and that probably is right at the edge of their sports teams. And since this is a more of a pop culture kind of story, it will get people to pay attention that don't normally pay attention to politics. And it's not just about the city of Philly. Philly wasn't going to vote for Trump anyway, but it is about the suburbs, and it's about half the state of Pennsylvania that roots for the Eagles. The other half roots for the Steelers. Let's keep it real. It's 2/3 Steelers. Still, it's a big part of the state that roots for the Eagles. And so for them, what does it look like? It looks like Trump was being a child. And this they can understand. This is not complicated policy. They might not know that the tax cut went largely top 1%, and they got $61,000 tax cut on average for those millionaires. But when Trump goes, oh yeah, well, I didn't want him coming anyway. Any sports fan knows that's a kid, that's a child, that's a baby, right? And it doesn't play well. The Eagles are not up for election. They had an election, it was called the Super Bowl, and they kicked ass. So remember, the Eagles fans are the rowdiest, most obnoxious fans in the country in a wonderful way. So are a lot of people in Philly. I went to school in Philly, and I love that. I love that as part of the culture. They once booed Santa Claus. You
Why?
think they're going to draw the line at Trump? Like, oh no, Trump, no, I can't touch Trump, right?
Why? What's the beef with Santa Claus? Is there a war on Christmas there or something?
I mean, they probably would spin it that way. No, they were in a surly mood, and the team was doing miserably. Santa came out at halftime. They're like, boo, Siktalan. They started throwing snowballs at Santa. Okay, you don't want to mess with Philly fans. I mean, this is a fight that you cannot win. I don't care if you're Donald Trump or otherwise.
That is amazing. I didn't know that story. Okay, so let me give my quick point of view, and I want to hear what you have to say about it. Look, I find it fascinating that when it comes to First Amendment issues, no one freaks out about what the president says, what the president does. Look, I know that the waters are a little murky in regard to whether or not Trump's actions violate the Constitution, the First Amendment specifically, because he would have to take some sort of action against NFL players who kneel. And right now he is making it appear as though he is taking action against these players because of their stance on kneeling, even though that's not really the case. When it comes to the Second Amendment, if there is even a tiny suggestion of a mediocre policy that would control guns to a small extent, people lose their minds and say that it is a violation of the Second Amendment. But when it comes to the First Amendment, you have a president who talks about getting those sons of bitches off the field if they refuse to stand. That was a tweet that he had. So that was action number one. And then now he is presenting himself as someone who's taking action against them because of their stance on kneeling, even though that's not really the case, obviously.
It's actually much worse than that because Trump threatened their tax cuts. So in two different ways. So now that is not, hey, Berkeley decided not to allow someone to speak, or a private institution, or a company decided to fire someone for saying the wrong thing. They have every right to do that, right? Whether you agree or I agree or not, right? This is now the US government, core First Amendment issue, saying if you let those people speak in any way, shape, or form in a way that I do not like, I will actually punish you, financially punish you, to the tune of, by the way, hundreds of millions of dollars. He attacked the NFL owners, and if you're wondering why the NFL caved, you're like, well, these guys are incredibly rich, powerful, they get all these giant contracts. Why would they cave to Trump? Because he's yelling on Twitter. Because it wasn't just the yelling. He said, well, you guys get a lot of tax breaks in your cities to build these stadiums. Maybe I take those away. Now they do, and maybe we should take those away, but not for this reason. And so the NFL owners were like, wait a minute. Somebody's onto us that we get a totally unfair advantage from the cities and states that we basically hold hostage, right? So that's when they started sweating. And then later, apparently, he called for and talked to Republicans in Congress about excluding the NFL owners from the tax cuts that the rich were going to get.
Okay, so that is a huge violation of the First Amendment. That is a huge violation. Attempting to take punitive action against NFL teams because of their stance on the national anthem, because they have the audacity to protest in a peaceful way to draw attention to a very legitimate issue in the country. I mean, this man does not respect the Constitution. I would be shocked if he even knows what's in the Constitution. But again, no one really makes a big deal about that. They make a huge, huge deal about the Second Amendment, but every other amendment in the Constitution doesn't really matter.
All right, so now let's go to the substance of it. That's obviously a part of the substance, which is a gross violation of the Constitution that everybody's largely ignoring these stories. Number two is, look, I think the media is hugely responsible here, and I'll tell you why. Every time that they talk about this National Anthem story, they present the Republican and Trump point of view, and that's why Trump does it. It's actually very effective. To be fair to him, that propaganda does work. He goes, they're disrespecting our military and our country, right? So, well, then the media, it's your job to give it context. Every time you should explain, that they're taking a knee has nothing to do with protesting the military or the troops.
That's right.
It has everything to do with protesting cops. And you know what? You can get angry about that. That's fine. But at least be accurate that they are worried about the disproportionate use of force against African Americans. Secondarily, and these are the bare minimums that the media should do, they should point out that it's true. There is disproportionate use of force, disproportionate arrests of African Americans as opposed to whites in this country. We've gone over the numbers on 100 different cases. The one that sticks out the most, white people, black people in this country smoke pot at the same rate. African Americans get arrested at 4 times the rate. So that's your bare minimum. Once you get past that, I wish they would do this. We do this, but you could also point out the hypocrisy of Trump. Here is Cadet Bone Spurs. He got 5 deferments from Vietnam. You want to talk about respecting the country and the flag and our troops? So
that's an action he took. But then, while he's talking about actual veterans, he feels the need to insult them. Insulting a Muslim family whose son died as he was a member of our military. That happened throughout his campaign. Also, the fact that he was talking about John McCain as, someone that he insulted him several times, saying that he prefers people who aren't prisoners of war or who weren't prisoners of war. I mean, this man has openly and transparently disrespected veterans over and over again. And somehow it seems as though he is just immune to any type of criticism from his supporters who claim that they love our veterans and our military.
He said that he demanded that the Eagles, quote, pay tribute to the heroes who fight to protect the flag and loudly and proudly play the national anthem, that that's what they would do at the White House, right? So first of all, trumpeting your patriotism loudly is a telltale sign of being a fake patriot. So you know what could have shown patriotism and paid tribute to the heroes who fight to protect it is if you were among those heroes, Donald Trump, and you had every opportunity to do so. You got 5 deferments from Vietnam. Now, so I'm gonna go over one part of this story because it's important. He said he had bone spurs in the 5th deferment. When they asked him during the campaign, which foot did you have the bone spurs in? He said, I don't remember. Then later he said, maybe both. Okay. So obviously didn't have bone spurs. His daddy got a doctor, paid off a doctor to write a note so somebody else could go die for Donald Trump. So Ben told this story on a previous episode of Old School, on the last episode. And if, by the way, become a member, get all of our shows, including Old School, tyt.com/join. And it was a great episode. And in that episode, he explained Bruce Springsteen and what happened with him in Vietnam. Bruce, his dad was like an old school tough guy dad. Bruce went to go join the war effort. So and he didn't make it. He didn't pass the medical. So he goes to tell his dad, and he's really worried about his dad's reaction. And his dad says, "Oh, thank God." Why? Because he didn't want his kid to die, right? But Bruce Springsteen said that he told his dad, "Dad, it's nothing to celebrate. Somebody else is going to go in my spot," right? See, that's a degree of understanding the sacrifice and appreciating it. That's being a true patriot. Donald Trump, after he got out of Vietnam, bragged that he had his own personal Vietnam, avoiding STDs at sex parties. He literally said that. He said it was my own personal Vietnam. He has no shame. And for him to claim that he stands for the flag and the patriots who fought to keep our freedom, it's a disgrace. Now, do you get that in every news story? No, you don't.
Not.
No, all you get is, well, I guess the players are against the anthem and the flag and the military, which is the exact opposite of what's true. I'll tell you, these Eagles are amazing. I wish they had kneeled during the anthem because they would have had every right to, and I think that's the right thing to do. They didn't, as it turns out. But don't underestimate their actions. Malcolm Jenkins is an amazing fighter for civil rights. Chris Long, who, by the way, is a white player, donated, not only is super active in social media fighting for justice, he donated every paycheck to charity.
Yeah, every paycheck to education.
Yeah, and would you have done that? I wouldn't have done that. I don't know anyone else who would have done that. Chris Long is an American hero, and you're going to talk to the Eagles about who are heroes and who are patriots?
And remember, the main reason why this is all happening is not because any of them did kneel during the national anthem, which, as Cenk mentioned, they had every right to do. It's all because many of them decided not to show up to the White House for this celebration.
And that would have hurt poor Donald Trump's feelings.
That's right.
And we do know that he does not have a good time with Eagles. That to be fair.
You don't show the aspirin on the
Two easy ways to follow the Young Turks. One is hit the subscribe button down below. Then you're a TYT subscriber. And second is ring the bell. And when you do that on YouTube, you're notified of our videos.